Welcome back to the Tavern, fellow adventurers. I'm Pape, your barkeep and game master. And tonight we have a master who spent 4 decades helping others reconnect with a power they thought they'd lost. So picture this, a curse that afflicts nearly every adventurer who enters adulthood. As children, we wield creativity effortlessly. It's our natural magic, our birthright. But somewhere along the journey, a dark enchantment takes hold. I call it the Phantom of Lost Wonder. It's a shape-shifting specter that whispers lies like, "You're not creative anymore. That's just for kids," or "Real adults don't have time for imagination." This phantom doesn't destroy creativity, because that's impossible, but what it does is bury it so deep that most people forget it ever existed. So our guest tonight in the tavern is Patrick Williams, an award-winning artist who's exhibited his work throughout the United States, Japan, and China. He holds black belts in both karate and aikido. He's a TEDx speaker, and for over 40 years, he's been teaching people something radical. Creativity cannot be lost, only misplaced. As the founder of the Satori Innovation, Patrick has developed frameworks with names like creative colonization, creative collapse, and creative metamorphosis, a complete map for dispelling the phantom and reclaiming the creative power that's been yours all along. Tonight, he's here to share what he's learned about restoring creativity, not just for artists and makers, but for anyone building a business that needs imagination to survive. Patrick, welcome to the Tavern. Tell
I'm
us about the
happy.
Phantom of Lost Wonder and how we can vanquish it.
Excellent. I'm happy to be here, Paul. Oh, I love that. The idea of the Phantom of the Lost Wonder. Well said. Well put. Wow. Ask me the question. I got so excited about your phrasing.
So the question was, I'd like to know more about this Phantom of Lost Wonder. Like, how is it that we lose our creativity, and then how do we initially vanquish it? We can get into the details a little bit later, but I'm just really curious about your initial take on this Phantom and something that we can do to help vanquish it.
Right. It's a lurking creature for sure that follows us in the shadows to steal this, to steal our, in a way, the gem inside of
Mm,
us that is our creativity. And you referred to it in the introduction. I firmly believe, and even beyond believe, I know that no one can actually lose their creativity. That
yeah,
we have it when we're little, when we're young, and it just gets misplaced. So I'm a I assist people in traveling down those dark caves into the underworld, so to speak. I'm the Virgil of to
oh,
helping the Dantes out there uh, get back to their creative wonder and
excellent.
defeat the Phantom.
Awesome. Awesome. So you also talk about creativity as something that can't be lost, as you just mentioned, only misplaced. But so many creative entrepreneurs I work with feel like they've completely lost it. They're either
Mm.
buried under client demands, business stress, or they're just in survival mode. What's actually happening when someone says, "I'm just not creative anymore"? What is the Phantom of Lost Wonder really doing to them?
Yeah, it's it has put them in a spell of forgetfulness.
Hmm.
Partly because I mean this really it truly happens when we're small, when we're in grade school especially.
Hmm.
We have that those qualities that are super creative, but then we get buried, so to speak, in academia.
Hmm.
So our system is set up in such a way that it rewards people who remember things more so than people who create things. So I'm in the camp of both things are important. And if you take one out, the creative part, then the academia actually diminishes.
Oh,
People are less academic without their creativity. So all the greatest, uh, most brilliant people that have ever lived, I know, don't quote me on this for sure, but I believe that it seems from my research and knowing people is that even if they're engineers, they have a creative process.
agreed.
Even if wherever they are, Einstein played music, he played the violin, he took walks, he did all these things to, generate his connection to creativity. So, so in our in our educational system, we are pushed more and more away from being in our creativity. So we kind of get used to that. And as especially entrepreneurs, I find this a lot in entrepreneurs, but and it's way more difficult in big business. Big business, they just have the blinders on and they won't go there hardly ever.
Sure.
But entrepreneurs, they know it inside. They feel that same spark as when they did waking up in the summertime and just running outside to do stuff. So it's not part of it is that they are seeking the right amount of time to be creative or be innovative. And it doesn't really work that way. You can't have a meeting next Tuesday with the team and we're going to innovate and be creative. You have to have this quality of creativity around you at all times. Just, I've seen the background of your home studio
Right.
and or your background now. It's full of creativity. So this is the quality that you and I know as artists, that our space and even our homes are filled with things that not only remind us, but they communicate to us about creativity. It's the magic of that gem that is inside each of us is always responding to the other gems in our workplace, in our studios, in our homes. When we go out to listen to music, when we go out and see a film, when we go out and take a walk in nature, those are all reminders of us and our creativity to connect with our creativity. And a lot of people in business, entrepreneurs, they are overwhelmed with busyness. And
Mm.
that busyness is just like they experienced when they were in third grade and they had three tests to study for, and then the standardized tests, the
Yeah.
teachers are saying they're coming up in a month and we have to get ready for those. And it just pushes out all the space that we need naturally to be creative. So,
I yeah, I agree. I agree with that. Absolutely. I have three boys, and we get emails from their teachers a week before says, make sure that you prep your child for this test that's coming up. And I'm like, what? The world does not pivot on this test. My kid's future does not pivot on whether or not they understand social studies. I mean, they should know it, but what's funny is we've tied education into money.
mm,
And if we don't hit certain metrics, then the value of our teaching has gone
mhm,
down, and therefore the funding for our teaching goes down. And so I hate that it's come to that, but it's really not
mm,
the teacher's fault at all. It comes
mm,
down from on high down below. And to know the elementary school teachers, especially elementary school teachers, where when I was a kid, I'm a child of the 70s. When I was a kid, it was all about play. It was all about imagination. And we had maybe one or two classes where it was about, like penmanship, I think was the one that was like
mhm.
super strict because it had to follow specific rules. But other than that, it was like, no, we just play. We just use our imagination. And that has slowly just been whittled away, like you mentioned.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's tragic.
Yeah. Wow, that's great. It's absolutely beautiful. So you have this concept called creative colonization.
Mm.
And that phrase really struck me. It sounds like creativity gets taken over by something external. And for creative entrepreneurs specifically, what are the forces that colonize their creativity? And what takes over the territory and plants its flag?
Sure. I danced around that phrase in the last answer
Yeah.
because I was essentially talking about creative colonization.
Okay.
So so with respect to entrepreneurs, in their I'm hoping that everybody is going to be able to see how similar this fight for us to get into the cave, into the underground to retrieve our gem,
Hmm.
how similar it is between entrepreneurs now in their life as adults and how similar it was when they were children.
Oh,
That fight that they had in grade school when the colonization starts. So the creative colonization starts in school mainly, but it's also happening at home in different ways. And it happens out in the larger world. And when we're playing sports or we're doing some other activities, visiting friends or on vacation or whatever it might be. So, and there are two types of colonization. There's a malignant colonization and there's a benign colonization. The benign colonization is just, I'm too busy. The
Mm.
entrepreneurs say that, and the kids will say that. I'm sure you maybe have heard your kids say, Dad,
Once or
I
twice.
got so much to do. I can't do that. I can't do this, or whatever it might be. So people feel busy, and so
Mm.
they take the things out of their life that are easiest, it seems, to take out, and part of it is play, imagination, and creativity. So the colonization is a slow, sometimes it's fast, but it's generally a slow process of just moving our inner culture. So think of it as in the history of the world, all the times one group has colonized another group. They go in, they take over, they change the language, they
Mm.
change the rituals, they change the sacred spaces, they change the way marketing, business is done. They change all that to the people who are taking over into their way. So in a way, it is a strong phrase. So I'm equating the school system, not the teachers. I love
Right.
I was a teacher, so I love
Sure.
teachers. They're in a bad position.
Yeah.
So they're they're literally the system is colonizing the children, taking away these inner rituals in a way, these inner natural states of being. They're taking away their their original language. So I believe that our original language is creativity. It's not verbal,
Hmm.
but we know when we're playing.
Hmm.
We know when we're having fun. We know when we're using our imaginations. It's easy. I know it's easy for you to know that because you're inside of it all the time. But
Right.
but people, I know people relate to this, that they can feel it. Whenever I'm talking about this, they always feel like, oh, yes, I know just what you mean. They
Mm.
can they can have a memory back to when they were 8 and making animals out of clay,
Mm.
and they can relate to that feeling. So the colonization is pushing that feeling off to the side because they have, 4 pieces of homework to do. They have these other assignments. They have all this to do. Then switch it to the adult entrepreneur phase, and it's essentially the same feeling.
Mm.
Oh my God, I have this meeting, I have that meeting, I got to make those. I have 5 calls that I have to make. I have 20 emails that I have to respond to. I have 100 emails that I haven't read yet. And people are just so filled with busyness that they have to figure out ways to push items away. I used to push sleep away.
Oh.
So I lived a long time through a couple decades when the thing I could take out of my life that would assure that I had enough time to paint was sleep. So I would work a couple part-time jobs during the day, as most artists have
Nope.
done, right? And
Yep.
and then I would either teach karate or I would teach or take Aikido classes, and I would make a little time to eat. But then at the end of the day, and the end of the day might have been 10 o'clock, it might have been midnight,
Mm.
then I would start painting. And I would paint for 4 or 5 or 6 hours and then set an alarm, a timer for however many hours I had. If I had 2 hours, great. If I had 4 hours, awesome. So I took sleep out. And what sometimes entrepreneurs also take sleep out, but
Hmm.
they take these things that they label superfluous, or they label it's not going
Mm.
to get me anything. I
Hmm.
can't attach a numerical financial number to that activity, creativity, that will show up as a positive on my value system or whatever it might be, all the
Hmm.
terminology. So
Right.
creative so entrepreneurs are experiencing their creative colonization in a different way, but it's so similar to when we were children.
Hmm.
And that's why it gets in the way so easily. Because when we're children, we are so close to our natural creativity that when it's taken away, it's like, oh, it's like getting
Right.
getting shot or getting zapped or
Sure.
being shoved down further into that underworld. So the colonization is a very intense phrase, but I feel that it really expresses this deep, deep wound that we all of us have. I have a different kind of creative colonization. My creative colonization was within music and playing music. And
Mm,
that's a whole other topic that we don't have to get into now. But I just want to assure people that I'm not I'm not immune. I
sure.
don't have some kind of creative immunity. I have experienced these in writing, in language. I didn't talk until I was 3.
Mm,
So I was stubborn and experiencing these kinds of peripheral colonizations, so to speak, but also definitely creative colonizations. But the entrepreneurs have a chance to to get back into it.
interesting. So do you feel that after all of the colonization has really taken hold, that the goal of, I don't know, the phantom or whatever being controls all of this is looking for a homogenization of humanity? I mean, is that because that's really
Mm,
what it sounds like you're saying is that people become colonized with and push away anything that would make them unique, make them creative, to
mm,
become this machine
mm.
within this, this their cog in the machine,
Sure.
and to fit into that, they have to be stripped away of any of the humanity that make anything that makes us special, and then they're all you're left with is this homogenistic gray entity, almost like a zombie or
Yeah.
a wraith of yourself, and it just
Right.
has to go through life. It's really unfortunate. It's interesting. You when you were describing all the things that people have to, that occupy their time, that take up the space,
Mm.
the noise in their life. I was like, are you looking at my planner? Like this is literally my day.
Yeah.
But what I found with myself with the creativity is that I take my quiet times, either when I'm driving or if I'm waiting for somebody, or just moments where I can, and I force myself to be creative in those moments.
Mm.
I mean, I am creative for an occupation, but even that feels like a job. But
Mm.
there are times when I have to reinvigorate myself on the creative spectrum, and so I have to find these moments, the stolen moment, and it feels so bad to say that. It's like this is my
Mm.
life, but I'm stealing moments away from
Mm.
something more important to be able to do the thing that makes me feel more human.
Mm.
It's just really interesting. So I love that, and I love that the word is so like colonization. It's got some smack to it. It's
It
got some
it
weight, and I
ah.
love that because it sometimes you need to be, there's a saying, the feather, the brick, the truck. And in
Mm.
life, when things are happening to you and they want you to move forward, you'll get first the universe will send you a feather, then they'll send you a brick. And 9 out of 10 times we don't listen. Then we get hit by the truck. And
Oh
it's that
yeah.
thing that like really changes our lives. And I feel like that is very much what this is. When we say
Mm.
colonization, we're like, no, that's not happening. But it is that deep. It is the truck in this analogy. I think that's really important.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Oh yeah.
So you've been a working artist for 4 decades, exhibiting internationally, represented by galleries, building a huge teaching practice. That's not typically common. So most creatives, they either burn out or they starve out. So
Mm.
what's the secret to sustaining creativity and a business for that long? And what did you learn in year 5 that saved you in year 20?
Ah. Well, I think I've dodged a lot of trucks, but I've also got hit by a lot of trucks.
Yep.
I think that's well put. I'll remember that, Paul. Ah, So, oh, I think I think one of the pieces I'm this just hit me as you said it, and I hopefully tell me if I'm off track, but I
Sure.
feel I feel that there's a kind of sacred stubbornness
Mm,
to being a creative and not necessarily an artist. That's one of my challenges to get people to reconnect with creativity, but understand that I'm not trying to get them to be a painter or a musician. I just want them to get back to creativity.
I like to
But
say every artist is creative, but not every creative is an artist.
it's
The
true.
best way. It's
That's
100%
so
true.
so
Yeah.
true. Excellent. So I feel like part of my ability to be here now
Mhm.
is simply being stubborn, a, a sacred stubbornness that
Okay.
I keep showing up. I keep coming down here to the studio. I keep all my ever since I got so I when my sister went off to college in 1972, I got her bedroom. So
Mm.
before that, I was out on the couch in the living room. So that was a big deal. And one of the first things that my mom did was get me a little easel.
Mm.
And my that bedroom essentially became my first studio. And in a way, it reflects what I mentioned earlier that creatives must find either a space or a part of a space, even if it's just your desk.
Mm.
Make a little sacred area that is all about creativity. You and I are lucky because we get to have a whole room
Right.
for our creativity called our
Right.
studios. And in those spaces, we give ourselves permission to go to those places that are not, there's a word I'm trying to find, they're intangible.
Mm.
And as you know, especially when you go into business and go higher up into business, they hate that word.
Oh yeah.
They do not like intangibles. They like something solid. You know,
Yep.
they want to that's a piece of wood right there with a painting on it. They don't want me thinking about a painting. They want the painting. So yet the intangible is so vitally important. And an object on your desk, even if it's just, let's say it's a little pot. I have a pot that I pinched when I was in first grade, painted it green and orange, and I still have that. I don't know where it is right now, but I still have that.
Nice.
That is an object somebody could put on their desk
Hmm.
and connect with that feeling to keep that feeling alive. Oh,
Mm.
yeah, I remember when I made that pot. I remember painting it, putting those designs on the edge of it, and that will spark that energy to remind them that they still have that gem inside. So if that,
Mm.
let's say we have the gem, all right, we've gone down into the underworld, we've fought the phantom, we're up on the surface, and we have the gem, but it needs light,
Mm.
and only our internal flame can get it get enough spark to get light into the gem again. When you're looking at the little pot that you made, you give that gem a little bit more light. And
Mm.
each
I
time
love
you
that.
do something, it will grow if you have that intention. So the I believe the entrepreneur, and as the everybody's going to hate what I'm about to say, even you, Paul.
Oh, okay. Bracing.
You have to set a little bit of time for your creative reawakening.
Mm.
To restore your creativity, you have to put effort into it,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Yep.
if whatever we do in our life, if we think, oh, I want to start doing this, well, you can't just do it. You know, you have to practice it.
Sure.
You have to make time for it. So to be as gentle as possible, if the entrepreneur wants to get back into their creativity, because it seems intangible, but it has absolutely solid results that will come out of reconnecting with it. So even if you don't believe it, start trying it. start working on building it, and you will see it's like, oh, I just had this idea. And it seemed like it came out of nowhere, but I had it when I was looking at my little pot that
Mm,
Patrick told me to put on my desk. So a little bit of time.
okay.
And I can't say, how long that is, but let's say 5 minutes, which may to some people will seem like, are you crazy? I don't have an extra 5 minutes in my day. My day is 17 hours long
Right.
and it's booked. So you're telling me to add 17 hours and 5 minutes to my day? And I'm saying, yeah, give it a shot.
I,
What
f- I find when people like start to when they get to that point, I have them map out where they're spending their time and
right.
like to minutia, like you
Yeah.
just really dig into it, and you'll be surprised how much time we waste
My God.
within that. Well, in this hour, I'm doing this. Well, how much of that hour are you actually doing it? 10
Exactly.
minutes? What are you doing for
Hmm.
50 minutes? Like,
Hmm.
what? That's where that comes. Yeah, that goes.
Totally.
Yeah, that's interesting. Absolutely. So, two of your frameworks are creative collapse and creative metamorphosis. And those sound like the low point and the breakthrough.
Mm,
Can you walk us through what that journey actually looks like? What happens during a creative collapse? And then what's the path to metamorphosis for someone in that dark place?
sure. So in in my TEDx talk, I use three people that have shared it with me about a family collapse in a way where their
Mm,
family wouldn't support them in
mm,
any kind of creative endeavor. Another one was the woman who was in charge of our she was our speaking coach for the talk. She shared that when she was in, I think it was third grade, the next two were from third grade, she was singing, and everybody in the class was singing, and the
hmm
girl in front of her turned around and told her, "Stop, you can't sing." And she's in third grade. She was
Right.
like,
Nobody
"I'm
can.
never going to sing again," you know?
Mm,
So,
mm,
and then the next woman, she was the person that got me in the circuitous path toward doing a TEDx talk. And she had an experience in third grade where the teacher gave them an assignment to draw a tree and a fence and a house. And she did
mm.
it, and the teacher said, "No, that's wrong." Took her piece up to the front of the class and showed the entire class why it was wrong. So,
Wow.
and but that day after she and I had our meeting, she sent me, emailed me a drawing that she made of a ficus plant in her office, and it's the first time she drew anything since
Mm,
that third grade experience. So it was like, yes. So that is creative collapse.
okay.
Those are the first example is a slow siege of creativity where the family just won't
hmm
acknowledge anything. So that's a long drawn out uh, creative collapse. The other two are immediate. They're
mm
one moment, and the kid, you were a kid, I was a kid, you have kids, so when a kid makes a decision, it's like
Yep.
there ain't no moving that mountain.
Nope. That's a
Sometimes,
shut door. Yep.
yeah, that's a shut door. So when we as children when we have that creative collapse, it is a hard stop,
Mm.
and it is very difficult to open that door again, to get them out of that underworld, that cave, where all the orcs are, uh, and they have your gem down there, your Arkenstone, so to speak. Uh, so the collapse sometimes is long term; it just slowly happens over a course of years. But then there's the immediate collapse, and the collapse could last. It could last a week, and the
Mm.
kid says, "Well, forget about it. I love singing," and start singing again. Or it could last a year. It could last the rest of someone's life.
Sure.
But the metamorphosis is always possible because, in a way, the we're always turning into caterpillars so we can get our butterfly to come out, so to
Hmm.
speak. We always have that gem inside of us. It's just a matter of getting it lit again, and lighting it up is the creative metamorphosis. Once it starts, once people actually, when the light comes on in their mind, and they really feel that connection, that in a way that almost trans-temporal connection back to themselves, because we all feel it. It may
Sure.
take a little time to really to allow ourselves, because it's hard. There's a lot of wound and a lot of hurt around leaving our creativity behind, because it was our language. It was our first language. It's how we knew how to learn. It's
Sure.
our first learning language. That's how children learn, is through play, imagination, and
Hmm.
creativity. So there may be a lot of resistance, but it is there. It can't go anywhere. So the gem is there. We only think it's way down in the underworld. That just makes a great story, you know.
Sure.
What else? We gotta have an adventure. So let's go into the underworld. That's always a
Absolutely.
great thing to do. So once the spark starts to happen, then it simply builds, and people really start to respond to being with, in a way, an old friend themselves, in a way, right? They're
Sure.
reconnecting with themselves, their younger, brighter, creative self. And once that happens, then the metamorphosis is natural. And it doesn't necessarily, I I say something to someone about getting their metamorphosis started, or you say something about it. You may say, maybe you were totally into playing, music when you were 8 years old. Maybe you should do that. And they may start that. I may tell somebody, well, maybe you should do some clay work. You love that. They may start there, but then they both may start doing poetry
Mm.
or getting into dance, or they start realizing how they can integrate their new energy of creativity into the widget that they're designing, or
Mm.
into a way in which they're communicating to their audience, or how they can do their podcast better, whatever it might be, right? So
Hmm.
once that once the energy starts, once the gem is lit up again, or starting to be lit up, then they still need practice, of course. We all do.
Sure.
But they will, if it is only 5 minutes that they do carve that 5 minutes out, then they're gonna think, you know what, I'm gonna have a half hour in my day where I work on my creative journal. That's one of the things I assign people to do, and then I'm going to explore some ways in which to connect to creativity directly.
Mm.
So not wanting them to be a painter or a drawer. I don't teach painting classes and workshops. I have exercises that people use a pen and pencil or whatever, right? But that's
Sure.
not the exercise is about an internal process rather than an external process. The external process helps, but it's not the gem, right?
Right. Right.
The gem is inside. So they may say, yeah, half hour, I got that. I'm really finding that, Patrick actually knew something about what he's talking about, and I'm gonna keep doing it. So
So do you feel like, because you mentioned that a single statement can destroy
mm,
someone's process into creativity. Like it can literally like stop it. Do you
mm,
feel that a single statement can bring it back to life? Obviously not
absolutely.
from the same person, but from somebody else. Do you think that
Yeah.
you know,
Or
is
it could be from the same person. That's the surprising uh uh maybe that's the feather. Or maybe
mm,
it's the truck.
maybe at
Yeah,
that
yeah,
point.
right.
Well, interestingly, my father, like I've been a creative my entire life. I mean, you could not stop me from making and creating. That's just I was born that way. That's just the way it is. And yet my father came from a very different background. And
Mm,
I remember growing up, it was do anything but. And there was a lot of punishment associated with being
Mm.
creative.
Mm.
But what I found happened is he retired and he leaned so heavily into his creativity. It was like the permission to not be in the machine was
Mm.
gone after he retired, and then he allowed himself the ability. And then now he comes to me and he's like, well, how do I do the creative things that you've been doing your entire life? Like, what pointers can he give you? What kind of so? And it's interesting to me that I think the permission that he got, no
Mm.
one, he didn't have to go through the mines to dig out the gem. He had it. He just hid it for so long, and
Mm-hmm.
that as soon as he got himself out of the machine when he
Right.
retired, he held it up and looked at it for the first time, and it
Mm.
just blossomed, and he ran with it. And I
Awesome.
find that that's interesting how it can be an external source, but it can be as much an internal
Mm.
source as
Mm-hmm.
anything. But then once it's enlightened again, once that gem starts to glow, that we or that person can then they have like new vision, like they're able
Mm-hmm.
to see things. And in case of my father, he saw his son who, no matter what was said to me, I was like, nah, just gonna do it. Just gonna
Right.
and that courage, that strength, or whatever that he saw in that, he's like, well,
Mm.
this is obviously something that can happen. I mean, for 50 years he told me no, and then now it's like, oh, okay, now you can actually, this is possible. I can do this, and
Right.
to me, I think it's very interesting. It's really interesting to see how that happens.
That's a
The,
beautiful
I
story.
mean, and that's the thing. It's like everything, art, creativity, all it's cyclical. I
Yeah.
mean, within our own journeys, and within life in general. I think we live in a world of suppression,
Mm.
and but our genes, our core being, fights that suppression
Mm-hmm.
as much as we can. And I believe that fight is what leads to depression. It's what
Oh,
leads
for
to
sure.
people to abuse drugs and alcohol. It's
Absolutely.
that they can't be who they want to be
Mm.
because of the suppression that's around them, and they don't know that there is a gem or that there is a way out, and so they turn to
Mm-hmm.
these other things. And it's
Mm-hmm.
really interesting.
In a way, they've been almost trained to be terrified of the gem,
Mm, mm.
to
Good way to put that.
run because it's danger. There's a danger associated
Sure.
with going into that space.
And I think that you're right, that we learned that in school. The danger is you'll be poor, you'll be homeless, you'll
Yeah,
be,
right.
this is not a real job. I hate that, but it's
How
like a
many
real,
times have you heard that? Right.
oh, so if I had a
Uh,
nickel, I wouldn't have to work anymore.
right.
Okay, so you hold black belts in both karate and aikido.
Mm.
You've got decades of training in budo. So I'm
Mm.
curious, how do martial arts principles show up in
Mm.
your approach to creativity and business? Is there
Mm.
an aikido move for dealing with client rejection or creative block?
Well, that's good. I like it. Yes, indeed.
Okay.
In many of those, I think the core, in a way, I mean, in some way it sounds cliche, but it's easy for it's easy for me to talk about it. It's easy for people to visualize the discipline it takes to be in the martial arts,
Mm,
because the dojo is a place where you go to push yourself. Budo itself is the martial ways, and Bujitsu is martial arts. So
okay.
Bujitsu is literally military fighting.
Mm,
So it's sort of a misnomer to call what people do in a dojo or a practice hall as martial arts. It's really Budo. It's martial
okay.
ways. We're learning about ourselves. We are learning how to fight and how to defend ourselves, but we're not in the military. So
Mm,
there's a if you get really picky, you have to pull them apart.
okay.
But I use martial arts interchangeably also.
Sure.
So the discipline of learning an art like that, physical art that's super demanding, is is synonymous with discipline. If you don't have discipline, then you don't progress. You have
Mm,
to show your teacher that you have been pushing yourself. The teacher has to see in class that you are pushing yourself and that you're incrementally gaining understanding of the art, and and then that's how you progress. So
Hmm.
there's a direct relationship to making art or making in
Mm.
general,
Hmm.
uh, whatever whatever the person is making or involved in making, there's a direct relationship to discipline. You know, when you're putting hours in the studio, that something is going to happen, something comes out.
Sure.
So uh, I was I was lucky in being raised on. We had hogs and steers, and uh, you know, we dad planted seed corn, and he rented acreage to plant seed corn, and we were always helping the other farmers in the area, uh, you know, baling hay, all those
Yep.
things. Uh, so there's a discipline there. You
Sure.
got to get up and you got to do the chores.
Hmm.
You know, as much as a kid you hate getting up and doing the chores, it's just one of those things. And it's not it's not always like April, you know. Sometimes it's
Right.
February,
Yeah, exactly.
or yeah. So you have to have this discipline, but you also have to have a resolve to to be out in the cold or be out in the hot
Mm.
in those situations. So I learned that, even though it wasn't always a happy learning process, but that added to my ability in karate to to keep pushing myself, even though it was hard, like
Mm.
really hard, really, really, really hard. Why am I doing this kind of hard? And that was connected to painting, because
Mm.
painting has a different kind of joy to it, but sometimes it's just hard.
Mhm.
It's hard to look at something that, oh my God, that is just so bad. I can't have anybody ever see that. I taught myself to do portraiture 2 years ago,
Mm.
and I thought for the first week, I know it doesn't sound long, but I've been painting for 50 plus years, so
Right.
I thought I'm just going to jump into this, and it was it was a semi truck that hit me. It wasn't just a truck. Maybe it was a whole line of semi trucks. And I thought, oh my God, I'm never gonna tell people that I started doing portraiture because it was not going well. But then I thought, you know what, just keep at it and just,
Hmm.
focus, and you rely on what you know and rely on I don't know. That comes in handy a lot, is
Oh yeah.
I think I know things that I don't even know I know. So I relied on that. I relied on just that discipline of keep showing up. So I think I'm trying to get back to I know yeah, karate and
Yep.
entrepreneurs. Yeah, entrepreneurs. Yeah, I think, like you said, I loved what you said about when you really sit down and pick out minute by minute what you're doing during the day, you're going to find that you have a lot of spare change there, dude. You know, you're
Yep.
you're slipping and sliding, and that lunch break is you think it's like 15 minutes long, but you were I thought it was 90 minutes you took your lunch break or whatever. So the discipline is incredibly challenging when you're by yourself.
Mm.
And that's when you know you're really gaining in the sweet spot of real work, so to speak. When you're in the studio for 7 hours and you haven't taken a break, you know you're in the sweet spot of discipline. And it
Yeah.
pays off.
Yeah.
All those years that I didn't sleep much, it's why I can do what I do now. I
Right.
made a lot of really, really bad paintings. I made some better ones, and slowly I started making paintings that were good, I will
Yeah.
say.
So
It's for other people to say if they're better, but
so you have this dojo that you go to for your karate.
mm,
Do you feel like it's important for a creative to have their dojo, their
mm,
creative? I mean, because we talked about the desk or the
mm,
thing, the item to help
mm,
their gem glow.
mm,
It's almost like going into a sacred space of
mhm.
creativity.
Absolutely.
Like you have your studio, I have my studio, but my wife, who's a costume designer, she'll come home often and work, but she has a very specific place that she sits. We have the
Mm,
entire house. She could work anywhere. She could work in my
mm,
studio. She doesn't. There's one spot that she sits, and it's by a window, so she can look out, see the world. She doesn't feel like she's away from things, but
mm.
that's her creative dojo. And it doesn't
Right.
matter who's around her, doesn't matter what's going on, because she's in the flow that you talked
Mm-hmm.
about earlier,
Mm-hmm.
about that creative flow, that discipline that allows her to be in that meditative state of creativity. So I love that you don't have to necessarily be a martial artist or a practitioner of the martial arts to understand the necessity of that meditation and that safe space or that creative space or that the place of learning like your
Mm,
dojo.
mm.
It's
Totally.
interesting. I love that.
Well said.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I bet also my intuition is that she is in communion with the kind of light, with the light
Absolutely.
that she needs. The I relate to that because I used to paint in all those years in just it was night. I had lighting in my studios,
Yep.
but after a certain point, I needed natural light
Yep.
all the time.
She's the same
Is
way.
and it
Yeah.
just is like, oh, it's
the
so
sunlight the
vital.
sunlight is way different. I mean, she has overheads on as well, but
Hmm.
it's the sun, and when the sun goes down the work is done. She has to walk
Right.
away, so you
Yeah, yeah,
understand.
for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, totally. Oh yeah.
So last question, if you could sit down with a
Mm,
creative entrepreneur who's convinced that they've lost their creativity forever, maybe they're just grinding through client work, feeling like a machine, what's the first practice or exercise that you would give them tomorrow to start reconnecting with that misplaced magic?
mm. I would tell them to go out and buy a journal
Mm,
and on the first page write my creative journal and start writing first about what they remember when they were kids and they were being creative.
mm,
Whatever the memory, just tons and tons, just fill pages up with memories of what they did when they were, go as far back as possible. When you're, however far back, 3, 4 years old. What did they do for play? What did they do during summer vacation? What did they do during winter break? What did they do on Saturday and Sundays? How did they play? What did they play when they played alone? What did they play with their
mm.
best friend? What did they play at school during recess? And we played, I don't, it was, we had some name for it. It was like kill the guy with the ball, right? Something really
Sure.
sweet.
Yeah, right.
And during
Endearing.
recess, some
Yeah,
guy got the ball, and all of us guys I mean, kids, we were,
sure.
whatever, 8 years old. We just chased him, and we were supposed to kill the guy with the ball, or whatever we called it. So,
Hmm,
we just, that's what we had all invented to do during one of the things to do during recess. So think of those things and write about
hmm.
them. Just
Okay.
write about your memories of how you were creative. And then there's lots of other assignments with respect to journaling on how to get back into that, finding that gem and how to get it all lit up. But journaling is one of the biggest uh, assignments that I give to people because
Excellent.
it changed my life. I mean, I journal every day.
Hmm.
I do a drawing. I do a morning meditation each day and post it to Instagram. So
Oh,
it's just
nice.
this year I'm drawing a triangle and a circle, and I just make marks and
Hmm.
I try to surprise myself.
I love that.
And that's an assignment that I give to people also.
So, so I find with my journals, when I get a new journal or I get a new sketchbook, I can't write in the first, that first page gives me such anxiety because I know that'll be the first thing I see every single time. So the first thing that I do is I either pick the second page, the very last page, or some random page, and I start there.
I
And
love it.
then when I feel like I've like become one with the journal or the sketchbook, that then
Yeah,
I can go back and fill in
sure.
that one because I won't feel that anxiety that and it's like I'm writing books now, and it's like that first page, that writer's block. I start in the middle.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is the idea I have, and then we just work back, and I feel that anxiety goes away. And when I was first started journaling, because I journal as well, it was that first line. It's like, this has to
Mm.
be poignant. This has to be important. This has to change worlds or change lives. And the
Right.
reality is no, it doesn't.
No.
You'll never see this again. You
Uh,
may reflect on it, but for the most part, you never see this again.
right.
It's the act of doing, it's the act of staying in it.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So, Patrick, this has been an incredible conversation. Before we close the tavern doors for the night, can you tell our listeners, if someone's sitting there thinking right now,
Mm.
I need help reconnecting with my creativity, or I want to learn more about creative colonization in these frameworks, where should they go, and what's the best way for them to continue this journey with you?
Excellent. I have very much enjoyed this conversation too, Paul.
Thank you.
So I can be reached. I I still give my email out. So patrick@patrickwilliams.com. That's also my website, patrickwilliams.com. Also, I have patrickwilliamsstaycreative.com,
Okay.
which is my Satori innovation site. It's where the business ideas are, where people can see, some of my background, and they can communicate with me through there. I also have celebration flower paintings,
Mm,
which is obviously a lot of flowers, but I also have some nature paintings there. I mentioned my Instagram. I have two main Instagrams: PMW Creativity, which is the drawings, the morning
mhm.
meditation drawings, and there's, I think, 3,600 of those so far,
Wow.
and
That's
a
10
new one
years.
every day.
Yeah.
And I have PMW_camera, which is I post pretty much every day uh, a photograph. So
Mm,
that's another way that when I work with clients, I have them, because we all have, phones with us, and we can do actual photography, and they can start feeling what it is like to compose a photograph, which
mm.
adds to their ability it kind of pushes their creative muscles, so to speak. So I have that.
Awesome.
And I also have recently, which I'm super excited about, a Substack called How to Make a Painting.
Mm,
And it's the story of the painting behind me.
okay.
And I'm on the 24th. I will publish my 24th installment next week. So
Awesome.
it's and start at the beginning for everybody. So that's How to Make a Painting on Substack. Otherwise,
Excellent.
don't start. Well, you can start wherever you want to. Be creative.
So all of the information will be available in the show notes, and so please be sure to check it out. And if you're listening to this podcast, please check it out on YouTube as well. Um, you'd be surprised. The background that is behind Patrick is absolutely beautiful. And if this is the painting that's in your Substack that you're talking about, go there, then you'll understand the journey before it. So, Patrick, thank you again for joining us in the tavern and for sharing your wisdom. This has been an absolute gift.
Paul, you're a fabulous barkeep.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Until next time.